Alright everybody, buckle up. We're about to take a trip back to 1995, a year when muscle cars were still very much alive, kicking, and ready to burn some serious rubber. Now, you might think the 90s were all about boy bands, hardcore rap, and questionable fashion choices, but let me tell you, the muscle cars from that era were anything but questionable. They were fast, they were loud, and they were downright awesome. That being said, let's do a quick rundown of the 8 fastest muscle cars from 1995. But fair warning, this list might make you want to trade in your modern ride for something with a little bit more grunt. Number 8, the Chevrolet Camaro Z28. Kicking off our list is the Chevrolet Camaro Z28. Now, if you were a teenager in the 90s, you probably had a poster of this bad boy on your wall, and for good reason. The Z28 was equipped with a 5.7-liter LT1 V8 engine that cranked out a solid 275 horsepower. That might not sound like much by today's standards, but back then, it was like strapping a rocket to your back. This car wasn't just about straight-line speed either. It handled corners like a pro thanks to its well-balanced chassis and suspension. The Camaro Z28 could hit 60 miles per hour in just 5.7 seconds, making it a serious contender on the streets. But if you think the Z28 was fast, wait until you hear about the next car on our list. Let's just say it might make the Camaro sweat a little. Number 7, the Ford Mustang Cobra R. Enter the 1995 Ford Mustang Cobra R, the car that made the Z28 nervous. Ford didn't just throw the Cobra R together. They meticulously crafted this beast to be the ultimate track weapon. Under the hood, you had a 5.8-liter Windsor V8 engine pushing out a whopping 300 horsepower, and let's be real, 300 horsepower in a Mustang? That's the stuff dreams are made of. The Cobra R was stripped down to the essentials. No air conditioning, no rear seats, no radio. Why? Because who needs music when you've got the roar of a V8 as your soundtrack? This pony could gallop from 0 to 60 in just 5.4 seconds, leaving other cars in the dust. But just when you thought the Cobra R couldn't be topped, the next car on our list shows up to steal the spotlight. Number 6, the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am. Now, the Camaro Z28 might have been impressive, but its cousin, the Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, was ready to turn the heat up. If you've ever seen Smokey and the Bandit, you know exactly what kind of swagger this car brings to the table. The 1995 Trans Am was no exception, packing the same 5.7-liter LT1 V8 engine as the Camaro, but with a little more flair. This car wasn't just fast. It looked fast even when it was standing still, thanks to its aggressive styling and that iconic bird decal on the hood. The Trans Am could hit 60 miles per hour in 5.5 seconds, just a hair quicker than the Z28. But here's the kicker. The Trans Am wasn't even the fastest car Pontiac had up its sleeve in 95. Intrigued? Yeah, you should be, because the next car on our list is going to blow your socks off. Number 5, the Pontiac Firebird Formula. If the Trans Am was a bit too flashy for your taste, the Firebird Formula was here to save the day. It had the same 5.7-liter LT1 V8 engine, but with a more understated appearance. This was the muscle car for those who preferred to fly under the radar, until they put their foot down hard. The Firebird Formula could blast from 0 to 60 in just 5.3 seconds, making it one of the quickest cars you could buy in 1995. It might not have had the show-stopping looks of the Trans Am, but when it came to performance, the Formula was all business. Still, as fast as the Formula was, it's nothing compared to the absolute monster that's coming up next. Number 4, the Chevrolet Corvette ZR1. Alright folks, we're stepping into supercar territory now with the 1995 Chevrolet Corvette ZR1. This isn't just a muscle car, this is the king of the hill. The ZR1 was powered by a 5.7-liter LT5 V8 engine developed in collaboration with Lotus. Yeah, that's right, Lotus. This baby churned out an earth-shattering 405 horsepower, which was utterly insane for its time. The ZR1 could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 4.4 seconds, making it one of the fastest cars in the world, not just 1995. It had the looks, the power, and the pedigree to back it up. But don't think we've reached the peak yet, because the next car on our list takes American muscle to a whole new level. Number 3, the Dodge Viper RT10. If there was ever a car that could double as a superhero's ride, it would be the 1995 Dodge Viper RT10. This wasn't just a car, it was a statement. Dodge took one look at the Corvette ZR1 and decided to go completely nuts. The result? An 8.0-liter V10 engine that delivered 400 horsepower, a monstrous amount of power for its time. But here's the thing, the Viper wasn't just about the numbers, it was about the experience, the raw, unfiltered, white-knuckle driving experience that made you feel alive. The Viper RT10 could rocket from 0 to 60 in just 4.5 seconds, a feat that would leave most cars of the era choking on its dust. But this wasn't a car for the faint-hearted, no sir. The Viper was notoriously unforgiving. No traction control, no anti-lock brakes, and certainly no electronic nannies to save you if you got it wrong. This car demanded respect, and if you didn't give it that, it was more than happy to introduce you to a ditch. We're just kidding, of course, but if you think this V10 beast was the ultimate thrill ride, the next car on our list proves that sometimes less is more, especially when it comes in the form of a finely tuned Mustang. Number 2, the Ford Mustang SVT Cobra. Next up, we've got the 1995 Ford Mustang SVT Cobra, a car that showed the world that you don't need a monster engine to have a good time. Now, don't get me wrong, the SVT Cobra's 5.0-liter V8 wasn't exactly a slouch, pushing out a respectable 240 horsepower. But the magic of this car wasn't just in its engine. It was in the way it balanced power, handling, and sheer driving pleasure. The SVT Cobra could sprint from 0 to 60 in 5.9 seconds, which, while not blisteringly fast, this was more than enough to keep you grinning from ear to ear. This car was all about finesse. Where the Viper RT10 was a sledgehammer, the Cobra was a scalpel, precise, sharp, and incredibly responsive. It wasn't just about blasting down a straightaway. It was about carving up corners like a pro. And let's not forget the sound. That 5.0-liter V8 had a growl that was pure music to the ears of any car enthusiast. But don't get too comfortable, because the last car on our list takes us back to the roots of muscle cars in a way you might not expect. Number 1, the Chevrolet Impala SS. Now, for the grand finale, let's talk about the 1995 Chevrolet Impala SS. When you think of muscle cars, a big, full-size sedan might not be the first thing that comes to mind, but the Impala SS wasn't your average family hauler. In fact, it was more like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Underneath that unassuming exterior was a 5.7-liter LT1 V8 engine, the same powerhouse you'd find in a Camaro Z28, pumping out 260 horsepower. Now, 260 horses might not sound like much compared to the other cars on this list, but consider this. The Impala SS was big, heavy, and built like a tank. Yet it could still hit 60 miles per hour in just 6.5 seconds, which was downright impressive for something that could double as your grandpa's Sunday cruiser. This car was all about stealth performance. It didn't shout about its capabilities, it whispered them. And if you weren't paying attention, it would leave you in the dust before you even knew what happened. What made the Impala SS so special was that it wasn't just about speed, it was about style. This car had an era of cool that few others could match. With its blacked out grille, monochromatic paint job, and understated yet aggressive stance, the Impala SS was the very definition of a sleeper. It didn't need flashy decals or a roaring exhaust to get noticed. It just did get noticed. So there you have it, 8 of the fastest muscle cars from 1995. Each one brought something unique to the table, whether it was raw speed, precise handling, or just a whole lot of attitude. The 90s might have given us some questionable trends, but when it comes to muscle cars, it was a decade that delivered in spades. Whether you were tearing it up on the drag strip in a Dodge Viper or cruising in style in a Chevy Impala SS, 1995 had a muscle car for everyone. And let's be honest, Wouldn't you trade your Bluetooth and backup camera for a ride in one of these bad boys? I know you would.